So trifling news came out in the last 24 hours since we got off the air. Yo.
Big time.
Yeah, the landmark decision Roe versus Wade is potentially going to be overturned. It could be one of the biggest social turning points in American history. I can't think of another social issue turning point. Black Lives Matter. This could be bigger.
Yeah.
It could be. It could literally, from a social standpoint, could be bigger. I'm not saying it's there. Everything is equally important, but in terms of the weight of social significance, this is as big as it gets.
Yeah.
Because the U.S. Supreme Court is poised to tell women in America they do not have a right to choose what happens to their body.
That's crazy to me.
The Supreme Court is now going to tell women that a majority of people in the state in which they live in will now have the right to tell you what to do with your body. There will be states that say women have a right to choose, and there will be other states where the majority of Americans will say women don't have a right to choose what happens with their body. And it all comes from a leaked opinion. It's the first time this has ever happened in Supreme Court history, where in a future opinion that has not been published yet, that has not been made public yet, that is in draft form, has been leaked to the public. It is a repudiation, what has been leaked, of the 1973 decision which guaranteed constitutional protections in Roe versus Wade. It is being written, this leaked decision, which if it stands, and it's going to come out in another 8 weeks or so, if it stands as written or close to being written, it is going to say, according to the Supreme Court justice who wrote it, Samuel L. Alito, he was nominated by George W. Bush, the second Bush. He wrote Roe, which is the abortion law, which is the abortion Supreme Court decision, was egregiously wrong from the start. We hold that Roe must be overruled. It is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives. It is exactly what is in the Constitution, where you have to protect the rights of, first of all, the Constitution is to protect the rights of minorities. It's as important, so that the majority do not trample on minority rights. But what is odd here is that 70% of Americans are in favor of some form of abortion law that allows a woman to choose. So it's really it is the minority of people who are giving the majority and telling them what they can do with their bodies. The other two other interesting issues three other interesting issues about this is, number one, if you go back to if you think about how did this happen? This happened because Mitch McConnell, if you remember back in 2016, when President Obama wanted to nominate a Supreme Court justice in his last year, refused to allow a vote. President Obama's pick would have been a pro-choice judge. That would have made, ultimately, if you believe that Roberts, who we don't know how he's going to vote, but appears that he would vote not to overrule Roe versus Wade, would have kept a 5-4 majority in favor of Roe versus Wade again. But because Mitch McConnell never allowed Supreme Court justice to be voted on by the Senate. Remember, the Supreme Court had a 4-4.
Yeah. Okay,
and that 4-4 majority changed the trajectory of everything. That 4-4 majority kept DAPA, Deferred Action for Parent Arrivals, from becoming law. So it changed so much in American fabric. And then when Trump came in, he was able to vote 3 conservative justices onto the court. The one that Obama wasn't able to vote in, plus 2 additional ones.
Jeez.
And that gave a large conservative majority. Susan Collins, who is a Republican, who was one of the deciding votes on Brett Kavanaugh, who's one of the Trump judges. Brett Kavanaugh testified at the Senate. He said Roe versus Wade is settled law, and he does not intend to overrule it.
Yeah, okay.
It was a direct question by Susan Collins. She's now coming out and saying Brett Kavanaugh lied.
Ooh.
Because if he is now going to vote 2 years or 3 years later after his confirmation that Roe versus Wade is a wrong decision, then he lied at that Senate confirmation. Do you remember Brett Kavanaugh was the justice who was accused of raping a woman at a college frat or high school party? I don't remember if it was a high school party or a frat party. It was a college frat party. And the woman who came forward and was scared to come forward was ultimately ridiculed by the Republicans.
Jeez.
and made to be where she was the victim. She was victimized again, and eventually Brett Kavanaugh became a U.S. Supreme Court justice. If this passes, he lied under oath, and 3 years later, now saying Roe versus Wade is not settled law. What's also interesting is, from a legal standpoint, this is a huge slippery slope, meaning that if you don't have a right to decide on your own body, what other rights that affect your body now would be left to the majority of the people who live in your state? The right to contraception. Okay, if you believe in pro-life, you believe that their contraception, you shouldn't be able to take, or many people believe that you don't have a right to contraception. There could be laws that pass certain states that say you can't take a birth control pill.
What?
And you're going to say, well, this is my body. I can do whatever I want. Well, no, you don't have a right. There's nothing in the Constitution that says you have a right to birth control pill. This is what the Supreme Court is saying.
Oh my gosh.
Tell me where it's written in 1776 or 1780, whatever, when they wrote the Constitution. Tell us where it's written you have a right to a birth control. Well, guess what? There was no birth control in 1780 something. Okay? But it's not written there. There's no amendment to the Constitution. You don't have a right to it. That's a decision for your representatives.
It just
So it's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
There could be laws that pass. You don't have a right to have consensual premarital sex.
Oh, what?
There are countries out there where those laws exist.
Yes.
Okay, and people go to jail for that. And you're telling me that a very conservative state institution may not pass that law? And you would say, oh, come on, that's ridiculous. This is the United States of America. But if you don't have a right to choose your body, then you don't have a right to choose any of this, because there's no right in the Constitution to premarital sex. There's no right in the Constitution to same-sex marriage. There's no right that says that. So if you you can go on and on and on about the rights that would be taken away, your rights to your own body, from this decision. And now it's being left up to your elected officials. This is tyranny by the majority. That's what it is. So if you say you have no rights to protection, it becomes tyranny of the majority. The majority in your particular state get to choose anything that happens to you. Tyranny by the majority of the minority. Jill's saying, you mean of the minority? I go, no, it's tyranny by the majority of the minority. Tyranny by the majority of the minority, yes. It's exactly what it is.
That's insane.
Yes. And what is also, as Nikisha Jacob said, this is some bullshit. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. It certainly
that's
is.
Exactly what it is.
It certainly is. And by the way, I read a statistic: 1 out of 4 women throughout their lifetime will either have an abortion or actually have a consultation about an abortion.
Wow.
That is affecting 25% of every woman, whether you're an American, a green card holder, an undocumented immigrant. It's affecting 25% 25% of, and God knows how many more,
Right.
you know, I mean, but that's the statistic. It affects every woman, affects every person. Because you can go on and on and on. What rights don't I have to my body anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it has not been published yet, but apparently it was leaked. And it was either leaked.
Who leaked it?
Well, you can look at two ways. Most of the sleuths on social media are saying it's somebody from Sandra Sotomayor's office. She's the most liberal of all of the Supreme Court justices. She was the one who took the staunchest stance in the oral argument. It could also be argued that it was somebody from a very conservative judge or one of the Republican judges who may have been wavering on his decision or her decision if it was a female judge. And they did this to leak it to make sure that judge didn't change his or her mind. So I mean, you could argue it's anybody. Now there's a lot of congressmen and there's a lot of senators, who, especially from the Republican side, who are saying whoever did this should go to jail. But I'm not aware of any law that says you can't leak a Supreme Court decision. It was just these were things that were never done before. But I'm not sure that there's a criminal statute that says you can't do this. So I don't know what crime the person committed. Perhaps if that person is a lawyer working as a clerk for a judge, may be subject to losing his or her law license. That could be a possibility. But in terms of committing a crime, there was no crime here. They just handed a decision that hasn't been final by a judge to somebody. And I'm not sure where that's in the criminal statute that says you can't do that. It just was never done. But I don't know where it says that you can do that. Now, one passage of Alito's draft opinion argues that social attitudes toward out-of-wedlock pregnancies have changed drastically since the 1970s, and that increased demand for adoption makes abortion less necessary. Now, I don't know where he got any of this information from. I don't know what country he lives in, but none of that is factually accurate.
Right.
None of it. And even if it is, quite frankly, Jonathan, why is he making those choices?
Right.
Again, why is he making those choices? So what happens when Roe versus Wade is overturned? Okay, each individual state is now going to decide whether or not you can get an abortion and under what circumstances. At the present time, there's about 25 states that most people feel are going to ban abortion either outright or ban it to such an extent that it'll be almost impossible to get an abortion.
Wow.
So in 25 of the 50 states, you're going to be out of luck.
That's a lot.
Okay, which means that as a pregnant woman, if you want to get an abortion, you would have to get on an airplane or drive in a car to a state that allows abortion. Now look at the red states. That red map, you're in the middle of that red map. That's a long drive.
Yeah.
That is a very long drive in the middle of that red map.
Yeah.
Pregnant to get an abortion.
Or the bottom of that red map.
Right.
The very
now,
bottom.
you can get on an airplane, but not everybody
Has airplane money.
Has airplane money, and then has to go stay in a hotel room.
Right.
And then has to go pay for an abortion. Okay, it's costly.
Yeah.
So this is going to affect minorities. This is going to affect poor people. And by the way, these are, forcing people to have a child that's not ready to emotionally give to a child, that's not ready to physically give to a child, that's not ready to perhaps bond with a child. Maybe this
Right.
person was raped
Yeah.
Do you know there's over 5,000 pregnancies a year from rape? How could you force somebody to have that child?
That would be...
Now, some women would still be able to get, there's an abortion pill. You would be able to go online if you have access to an internet and you are literate and know these things, and you could presumably buy an online abortion pill from a state that abortion is still legal and ship it across lines.
Doing something like that would scare me.
Yeah.
You know, I'd rather like do it in a facility, you know, work with, you know, the actual doctor. So like the fact that a woman would have to go to that length, you know, to get an abortion, it's crazy.
Do you know what the first thing that popped into my mind is when I saw this? I said, what are we, a bunch of freaking animals here in the United States of America?
Yeah.
I said, since when are we animals that we don't get to decide what we want to do? And by the way, being pro-choice doesn't mean I'm pro-kill child.
Right.
It means this unborn child is in my body, and I have a right to choose what happens to my body.
Yeah.
You don't have a right to force me to change my body, to have this unborn child grow in my body.
So now, like, even like, so what do where do we go when, you know, we're talking about health issues? Like, if you know that you can't take, you know, you can't handle a child in your body, and you feel like, you know, some of us, sometimes you feel, you know what your body can handle, and you're like, I don't think my body will be able to handle this. I don't think I will live. So like, you have to still have it.
You still have, in certain states, Missouri, for example, depends on what the state law passes. Missouri, the state attorney for Missouri, they passed a no abortion law. Doesn't even matter if you were raped, if there's a health issue with a mother, you got to have that child.
How does that make sense?
You got to have that.
So you want a child to come into this world with no parent.
And the state attorney, what about how about bringing an unloved child into this world?
Yeah.
Okay, what about bringing a child who doesn't get any care into this world? Is that fair?
No.
To that child? By the way, the United States has joined only 3 countries in the world since the 1970s that has gone backwards with abortion. The entire trend around the world is to be pro-choice, except if you live in Poland, El Salvador, and Nicaragua. And by the way, we're talking about how it's going to affect, you know, poor and minorities. It's also going to affect refugees. It's going to affect immigrants. Okay? Abortion bans, they have far-reaching consequences. Within the first 30 days of the Texas abortion ban, last September, the state saw a 60% decline in abortions. Refugees, who are disproportionately represented in southern states along the U.S. border, are among the most endangered groups. Due to inherent instability, refugees are especially vulnerable to sex trafficking, and the 6-week mark under the Texas law, allowing a maximum buffer of 2 weeks from the time a pregnant woman misses her period, the first sign of pregnancy. In a third of rape-related pregnancy cases, victims do not discover they are pregnant until the second trimester, 13 weeks later. So in Texas, you would be out of luck. The whole thing. By the way, this turns the entire election this November upside down. Till this day, this election in November was a referendum on Biden handling the economy and Biden's handling of the southern border, because that's the culture war. Remember we talked about the culture wars? And we said immigration is now the center of the culture war? Well, step aside immigration. You're no longer the center of the culture war. The center of the culture war is now abortion. And where a majority of Americans perhaps were not happy with President Biden's handling of immigration on the southern border, think I saw a statistic that only 30% or 35% of Americans are happy with the way things are going on the southern border with immigration. As I said at the top of this show, 70% of Americans are pro-choice. And I would argue, Jonathan, that having your rights taken away to your body and the slippery slope that follows, perhaps no right to contraception, perhaps no right to same-sex marriage, perhaps no right to premarital sex, anything that has to do with your body, you don't have a right to anymore under the Constitution. Tyranny by the majority of the minority. I think that is a stronger reason for somebody to go to the polls and vote for a Democrat.
Yeah, for sure.
Than it is for somebody before this decision was leaked to go to the polls and vote for Republican because of what's going on in the southern border.
I agree.
So I say, move over immigration. The new culture war is abortion. And I would bet, I don't know for a fact because we got to see how it's going to come out, but I would bet that this will make more people go to the polls and vote for Democrats, and regardless of inflation, because that was the other big issue against Biden, inflation, which was a result of COVID, by the way, because we had shut down, and then we gave a lot of money from the government to everybody, so everyone had a lot of money. And then when we were shut down, nobody was spending it, so now everybody's spending it. So, and we have supply chain issues. So a lot of this is beyond Biden's,
of course,
what he can do. But the buck stops with the president, so people are angry. So, the Democrats were looking to get sloshed. The big concern is they were going to lose the Senate and the Congress and the House of Representatives. Now, I think this is a bigger issue than any of those two.
Yeah, I agree.
It is more personal, and it hits home, and I think the right to choose what you do with your body makes somebody a lot more angrier than the cost of gas or the fact that there's some people at the border trying to come into the United States. Given those three things, what would make somebody the angriest? What do you think? To go to the polls and vote.
I think majority of probably. I'm not gonna hold you. I think the gas.
You think gas?
I think it would be a good tie because gas affects a lot more people than just abortion. Because, like you said, even majority was voting for the abortion, and that's why I have a problem with it. Because it's like, why are men?
You're a man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Why are men? Why are men? I'm not saying me.
A woman.
No, I'm not saying me. But
go ask a woman what's more important. They both make you angry.
No, I'm not.
Go ask a woman what makes you more angry.
I didn't say we're not talking about what's more important.
I'm not saying what makes you more angry.
Yeah.
Go ask a woman what would make you more angry.
Of course. And if that was the case, then we would say abortion. But when we're saying the majority of everybody, I think just when it deals with people's pockets, because I feel like somebody even in the comment was like, if I can go into a store and buy a gun, why can't I, determine what I could do with my body?
Well, it's hypocritical. That's hypocritical.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You don't have a right to. They say it's murder of an unborn child, but as soon as that child's born, we can starve people at the border. We don't care about people's lives at the border. We don't care about people can get shot and killed in the streets. Who cares?
I just think that a lot of people are selfish, so that's the only reason why
I think it's hypocritical. But I will tell you this, my personal opinion. Okay, nobody likes to pay taxes, including me.
At all.
Okay, I'm a Democrat. I don't like to pay taxes. Democratic congressmen and senators, I don't like to pay taxes.
I have no Uncle Sam in my history.
Nobody likes to pay taxes, period.
I remember I asked my mom as a teenager, who is Uncle Sam? Why is he taking my money?
Uncle Sam was a poster from World War I.
Yeah,
but
not my family.
I don't like to pay taxes. Nobody does.
No.
Okay? But what I also don't like is to have my rights taken away. And if it costs me a couple of extra dollars in taxes, all right, to make sure that people are taken care of in this world and my rights are secure, that's a price I'm willing to pay.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But I believe that it's going to completely change
I think so as well.
The outlook of the midterm elections.
For sure.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Department of Homeland Security is stepping up an effort to counter disinformation coming from Russia, as well as misleading information that human smugglers circulate to target migrants hoping to travel to the U.S.-Mexico border. On Wednesday, the department announced a newly formed disinformation governance board that will immediately begin focusing on misinformation aimed at migrants. They say specifically there was confusion around President Joe Biden's immigration policies, combined with messages shared wildly across the Haitian community on Facebook and WhatsApp that led, remember the 14,000 migrants that were on the border, and then there was Department of Homeland Security was on their horses.
On their horses,
right.
Their whips.
And what were those 14,000 migrants doing there at that border from Haiti? Because there was false information that was being presented to them, to them on WhatsApp and Facebook. WhatsApp and Facebook. It was false information, false stories saying that the U.S. border was open.
Oh, is that why?
That's why they were there.
Wow.
And what the Department of Homeland Security is saying is, you know who is disseminating all this false information?
Who?
Our friend Vladimir Putin and Russia. They are behind spreading all this false information. Which leads me to say to Elon Musk, how the hell are you going to make free speech open?
Imagine
on
if that
Twitter?
just keeps on happening.
How are you going to make free... nobody's going to moderate what anybody says?
Literally will cause a whole...
So, I
war.
mean, I don't... Yeah, it's nice that Elon Musk says, yeah, I want to make it open to everybody. Where does free speech end and your right to have truthful conversation begin? And I'll tell you this. I don't even agree with this. Where did I see this? On Fox News, Mayorkas, the head of Department of Homeland Security, you know, he said that this new government agency, this Disinformation Board, is solely meant to address disinformation that presents a threat to Homeland Security. He says our work does not infringe on free speech, infringe on civil rights or civil liberties. He said an individual has free speech right to spew anti-Semitic rhetoric, say all the lies they want about Jews. What they don't have a right to do is take hostages in a synagogue. But you want to know what? All that rhetoric leads to taking hostages in a synagogue. So I would argue you don't have a right to say that either.
Right.
Just like you don't have a right to spew racist stuff against black people or Asian people. It leads to crime against blacks. Leads to Asian hate crimes. So I disagree with that. So I'm not sure where free speech starts and ends. It's a very hard thing. So when Elon Musk says, I want to give free speech to everybody, I think he's going to have a big problem. We got a lot to do here, Yo-Yo.
Yeah.
I just wanted to touch on one last thing before we get to our tea. Brittany Grenier. We've been talking about her a lot.
Yeah.
The State Department has now classified the WNBA player as wrongfully detained in Russia, and is being handled now by, her case is now being handled by the Office of the U.S. Special Presidential Envoy for Hostage Affairs. And then this agency in the State Department leads and coordinates the government's diplomatic efforts aimed at securing the release. Now, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said today that the decision to classify Grenier as wrongfully detained was made in coordination with the hostage negotiator and the State Department. Russia is charging Britney now as being trafficking in drugs.
That's crazy.
She's looking at a long time in jail, and it's obviously very political. Why would she be trafficking in drugs? A multi-millionaire WNBA player,
no sense.
the best player in the WNBA.
Right.
I forgot. Yo, what was she originally? The original story was she was accused of what?
She had like cannabis oil or something like that.
That's
they
probably,
said it smelled of.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. And this is obviously a political setup because of what's going on between the United States and Russia and Ukraine.
For sure.
And poor Britney is being
the
held.
One that,
so
that's scary though.
Yeah. By the way, I thought Jen Psaki was leaving the White House. She's still there. Didn't she announce like months ago she was leaving, Jill? But I guess she's still there. She's gone, but not yet, I guess. All right. Let's have some tea.
All right.
Yeah. I got to relax now after that. Boy.
It's a lot.
I thought maybe the tea wasn't here. Here we are. How are you? Our butler, Jay Rhymes.
Jay Rhymes.
Do you know every day he comes to work in this butler shirt?
Really?
Yes, even when we're not on air, he sometimes offers me tea. He's very nice.
This is my Met Gala outfit.
I mean, it does follow the theme, the Gilded Age,
Yes.
Old Hollywood.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you very much. What is the tea today?
It's called boba tea or
Boba-
bubble tea.
bubble
It's
tea.
a Taiwanese drink made with tea, milk, and tapioca and fruit
Okay.
jelly bubbles.
All right, well, thank you very much. I
where's
appreciate
Are
it.
the bubbles in here? Oh, yeah, they are. Thank you.
You ready, Yo-Yo?
Yes,
All right,
absolutely.
cheers, everybody. Let's
Cheers,
take
everyone.
a break for a second.
Well, we don't really have
It's
too
a
much
long,
time
it's a long
to,
day.
to
Wait,
break.
we don't have too much time. We just have a time for about a sip or two, right?
Oh, wow, this is very different.
Oh, this is very honey.
Yeah.
Full of honey.
Taiwanese. Very, yeah. You can taste the Asian
Ooh, lychee.
lychee. Look,
you like
I
lychee?
I like the bobas.
You like lychee?
I'm gonna
So
take
Met
the bobas.
Gala.
Yes.
Yo-Yo.
As the music plays, it's perfect for the
Yes.
Met Gala theme.
Yes, this year's theme was a continuation of last year's with the event held to celebrate the opening of Part 2 of the exhibition in America, an anthology of fashion, and this is the most, most valuable charity event of the year, certainly in New York City. It brings out all of the stars. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds were the co-chairs of this year's event. And Lively, she was on. Did you see all the
She was one
fashion?
of my favorites.
Yeah, she was on the carpet with a Versace gown. She had about 5 men behind her fixing her gown.
Well, because you see,
as she was walking up the. Did you like the
because it was
gown?
unveiled, unveiling and stuff. So like you'd have to fix. You saw how it
Yeah.
first started off, and then it ended up into this. So
Right.
I thought it was beautiful. She captured the moment and the theme very beautifully.
And Ryan Reynolds, he wore a tuxedo. Both her dress and Ryan Reynolds were by
Versace?
Ralph Lauren.
Oh, Ralph Lauren?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. Lively was Versace.
Yes.
Reynolds was Ralph Lauren.
Got you.
Yeah. And Kim Kardashian.
Oh yeah.
Did you see she wore Marilyn Monroe's dress?
That's crazy.
When she famously sang "Happy Birthday" to President John F. Kennedy 60 years ago. You know when she's like, "Happy birthday, Mr. President."
Yeah. Just a
Right.
couple months before she died too.
Yes, nobody. That dress was worn once by Marilyn. She did not wear it ever again. It is now. It is now in a museum.
In Orlando.
Right. It is valued at $10 million.
No, for
$10
What?
million dress. Kim Kardashian thought about it last.
What it was for?
No, $10 million.
Sheesh.
Kim Kardashian thought about it last September, and she's been negotiating with them to wear it. She
That's
had
huge.
to lose 16 pounds
Yeah.
to fit into the dress because one of the requirements was that she would not alter the dress
Right.
in any way, shape, or form. She had to wear the dress as is. And the other requirement was that as soon as she went, it was only for the red carpet.
Right.
And after she walked on the red carpet, she had to change out of it and put on an imposter dress, a similar dress,
It was a replica.
a replica dress, but not the dress because God forbid somebody would have spilled wine or food on it during the night.
Right.
You know,
I
it
mean,
would be
even
impossible.
Marilyn Monroe had to be sewed into that dress.
Yes.
Like, that's an iconic dress. That's crazy.
There's 6,000 hand-sewn crystals, and the gown was designed by costume designer Jean Louis and was inspired by a sketch from Bob Mackie. Kardashian, she had to lose the weight to come in. It is unlined. There's no lining in the dress, and the nude color perfectly matched. It was made to match the skin color of Marilyn Monroe.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was actually stayed and preserved at Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Yeah, in Orlando.
Florida. And Kardashian said, the idea really came to me after the gala in September last year. I've thought to myself, what would I have done for the American theme if it had not been the Balenciaga look? I could only imagine People magazine, like, who wore it better? Kim Kardashian or Marilyn Monroe?
Marilyn Monroe.
Who wore it better?
Marilyn.
Right? I don't think...
Like, there's no competition. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
First of all, you know, we're gonna be real. That photo of Kim Kardashian is heavily photoshopped.
Right.
Because how she looked on the red carpet next to Pete is not the same. The face
Marilyn
is
is
not.
not
Marilyn is
photoshopped.
not
They
photoshopped.
didn't have Photoshop back
at
then.
all.
That's what she looked like.
She came out, her little fur, and the fact that it was like so scandalous at that time too.
Yeah.
Nah, Marilyn hands down.
Yeah, I think so. And Pete
Hands
Davidson, they're making the rounds this week.
Yeah.
He was in a black suit.
I don't think that's gonna last.
You think
not
it's
so
over?
long. It's not gonna last.
He's going to have to get rid of those tattoos soon that he put on his body.
Right.
Yeah. Gabrielle, we'll talk about that in a second. Gabrielle Union, Dwayne Wade, they both wear Versace.
Yes.
Right, they look good.
They did, and
They're always good when you're all white too.
Yeah, yeah. And
all white always looks good too.
She paid homage to Diane Carroll.
Yeah. Is that what she did?
She paid homage to Diane Carroll.
Yeah, you're right. That's what it says. Yeah, paid tribute to Diane Carroll.
The original Devereaux.
Alicia Keys and Swiss Beats. They honored New York.
Yes, they did.
Keys wore a strapless dress from Ralph Lauren. Oh, wow. Ralph Lauren twice now.
Yeah, yeah.
And Swiss also wore Ralph Lauren, but he kind of went very cash.
Yeah, but Alicia, she had the whole New York on the back of her cape.
Yeah, but he went casual.
Yeah.
Do you go?
He also had like a tux under.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm invited ever to
you see the tux under.
Oh, okay, all right, so it's not so bad. But if I'm ever invited to the, I'm going tuxedo. If I'm ever invited,
I'm not even doing tux. I'm going like themed out.
You're going as maybe you should go as that.
It depends on what the theme is.
Why don't you go as the Cupid from?
Oh my gosh, look at the
no, I thought Jonathan. I thought Jonathan should go. I thought Jonathan should go. I thought Jonathan should go as the Cupid.
Absolutely not.
It is not red underwear.
That's going into one of the museums.
That's also going into Ripley, believe it or not.
Yes.
And what about Cardi B? She wore a Versace chained dress, which was made from a mile of golden chains.
Yeah.
You see, at what point does it become not fashion, but it just becomes you're wearing a costume like you're going to Halloween? You know, I mean, I'm not saying this, but some of the people I saw, I'm like, it's like you're wearing a Halloween costume.
Yeah,
right? You know, I don't know where the fashion.
It's a thin line.
Yeah, where's the fashion end and the Halloween costume
That's definitely
begin?
fashion though, because she had Donatella Versace right next to her as her date, and it took them a month to make that dress specifically for her. So that's pretty boss.
And Lizzo, she wore a gold and black coat with a curve-hugging gown.
Yes.
Yeah,
she looked good.
I don't know who necklace by Lorraine West. I don't know who that is. But Tom Brown, I've heard of him as a designer, but I don't know who Lorraine West is. But I'm sure it was a lovely necklace. Eric Adams, he attended with his girlfriend. I didn't know he had a girlfriend. Tracy Collins. Right. Who's Eric Adams' girlfriend? Do we have a picture?
Some lady. Yeah.
Some lady? Let's see. Yeah. I never saw what she looked like. Oh.
Yeah.
Nice couple.
Yeah.
I didn't even know he had a girlfriend.
I didn't either.
Okay, so a long-time partner. It's not just a girlfriend, a long-term partner.
I love that he gave a statement with his outfit.
That was very good. He wore a suit, and on the back of the suit it says "End Gun Violence."
Thank you. We need that.
And Kris Jenner, of course, had to be there as well.
Yeah.
All the Kardashians were there
for the first time.
For the first time, right?
Kourtney and Khloe finally got their invitation.
And Kris wore a Oscar de la Renta dress. and she said she was channeling Jackie O.
Okay.
Okay, whatever that was. And quickly, before we have to go to our meat and potatoes, we do have to talk about the White House Correspondents' dinner. Returned after a 2-year absence. That is the big dinner in Washington, D.C. that is known for roasting politicians.
Right.
It's the one time where politicians make fun of each other and where comedians make fun of politicians. Donald Trump never attended the event.
Of course not.
Because he did not want to be insulted.
He's a big baby.
He's a big, yeah, exactly. And as part of the event, the president. It's been a long history of doing this up until Trump. The president gets up and does his own comedy speech.
Yeah.
So we have some excerpts from President Biden's comedy. Let's see.
This is the first time the president attended this dinner in 6 years. It's understandable. We had a horrible plague, followed by 2 years of COVID.
That was kind of funny, right?
That was good.
That was kind of funny.
I like that one.
All right, what else? We have some more videos. Let's watch another portion.
Just imagine if my predecessor came to this dinner this year. Now that would really have been a real coup.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. And
First one was good.
the first one was better. And by the way, Trevor Noah from The Daily Show, he's hilarious. He was Biden introduced Noah by saying, let's watch. We have it.
You know, I think ever since you've come into office, things are really looking up. You know, gas is up, rent is up, food is up, everything. No, it really has been a tough first year for you, Mr. President.
Well, that was actually Noah's routine, but we also have a video of Biden introducing Noah, I believe. What he said was Biden introduced Noah by saying, Trevor, the really good news is you get to roast the President of the United States, and unlike in Moscow, you will not go to jail.
That's hilarious.
Yes. Now, that was a good one by Biden.
That's a good one.
And by the way, that's when Kim and Pete, since when is Kanye and Pete dating?
Right.
It's when Kim and Pete, they made their red carpet debut just a few days. They were very busy.
The
Washington Correspondents' dinner, followed by the Met Gala. And apparently, just quickly about his tattoos, Pete put a lawyer on his arm, tattooed lawyer on his arm. And he tattooed the initials of all of Kim and Kanye's children on his neck.
See, y'all try to tell me some, and you see, this is provoking a man who we know has mental issues. That's disgusting.
That's just lighting a fire.
Absolutely.
And by the way,
and for her to let it happen, it's just.
By the way,
I'm not here for it.
I could understand if they're married.
They barely started dating.
Exactly. I said I could understand if they are married, and Pete is acting as a concerned, loving stepfather and wants to show love for these children that he has grown to love. I can understand that, but that's just publicity and provoking.
Yeah.
And by the way,
I hate it.
Pete Davidson, he said he was going to get rid of all his tattoos because when he goes and does a movie or a show, he spends 5 hours
putting
on makeup to cover the tattoos. So he says, I want to get rid of them, but apparently he keeps adding.
Yeah. See? I'm not
You
here
think it's
for
a big deal or no?
I think that's a huge deal. I'm
Disrespectful?
not here for it. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
110%.
Yes.
Because we know how much Kanye loves his kids.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, some said Pete and Kim have been dating 7 months, and during the whole duration of the relationship, Kanye has made it very clear he doesn't like Pete, feels like Pete is pushing his buttons, and if it's not that Pete must be obsessed with Kim because of multiple tattoos. Others didn't think it was a big deal. Some said, what a nice gesture from Pete.
Oh, please.
He's actively trying to be a part of Kim's life.
Oh, God.
I think you save the tattoos.
Yeah.
All right, this is a family, okay? And you don't insert yourself into a family until you are part of the family.
And
you have to know your place, Pete.
Yep.
Okay, and your place is you're dating someone who is a mother of 4. You are not the stepfather
At all.
and you are not in the family yet.
Nope.
And once you are in the family, and once you have a relationship with these children, and having a relationship with children and having them accept you takes years and years and years and years and
Agreed.
years. So I think overall it was immature. I think it was uncalled for and not a good decision.
Agreed.
And if I was Kim, I'd be pissed. Thanks for watching. For more Brad Show Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.